Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to what is part two of my introduction to the INFOST 350 course, sections 201 and 202. Last week, I put together an introduction video in which we covered the syllabus. Okay, yeah, so it was called Lecture, Welcome, Review Syllabus and Weekly Schedule. Except we only had so much of the weekly schedule up. Okay. I think we did a good job of going through the syllabus in the first week or two of the schedule, but I didn't have it all up, and now I do. Okay, so just want to go through the rest of it and make sure that you're well oriented and you know what the expectations are. Okay, so week one, uh, is just finishing up tomorrow, and due for week one is installing the tools Anaconda and PyCharm Professional. And I hope you're doing well with that. Week two um, is when we get into the content. Okay. And this is a big week for us. Okay, we're going to cover I'm sorry, we're going to cover chapters 1 and 2 in our primary text, um, Zell third edition Python programming. And that makes it a heavy week. Okay. Um, is it an extremely heavy week? No, I don't think so. These are both introductory chapters. Play the lectures, um, do the assignments. As you can see here, we have two coding assignments, one for chapter one, one for chapter two. Okay, and they're due at the end of the week. So the end of the week is this Sunday, September the 15th at 11:55 p.m. Okay, and what are you doing in each case? Well, I have put together a set of exercises for each of the chapters that we cover. So let's look what we're doing for chapter one. Okay, so first exercise and second exercise. So these are pretty introductory, how to write a program. Okay, just really the basics. Okay, and you ought to be able to get through these pretty quickly. Certainly pay attention to all of the work that I uh, certainly pay attention to tutorials and the advice that I give and all that kind of stuff. But it should be um, a fairly straightforward assignment. In chapter two, we're learning about what are we learning about in chapter two? Writing simple programs. Okay. And so we have instructions for that. And let's see. In exercise one, we're creating a program named Simple Sentence Builder. In exercise two, we're creating a program called Colorless Printer. In exercise three, we are creating a conversion calculator from inches to centimeters, and that's it. So just three exercises, okay? And pretty specific instructions about how to do your work, um, etc. Okay? Right. So that's week two. That'll be due, a little over a week from now. Okay? Now, one thing that you should be seeing is I have a link to these online lab sessions. And these are sessions that I think I described pretty well in the recording last week, this is a place where you can come to discuss the solutions to the homework from last week, uh, talk about any problems or questions you have on the homework for this week. And then when we finally get to the final project, talk about that and get help for that. Okay. Uh, we're using a platform called Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. This is a platform that I've used a lot at the University of Illinois. Um, I'm new to it at UWM. I think I've set up the session. I've set up a repeating session for us, and you get to it by clicking on this link, the one that says this link. So you click on it and you bring it up, and it's only going to come up. You're only going to connect if it's at the time where this usually happens. And our session is going to go from 11 a.m. till noon. So again, but this is the link to click. Now, a couple of hints. In using this product at the University of Illinois, we've had the best results when connecting with the Chrome browser. And I'm not currently connecting with the Chrome browser, but I don't think that that's my problem. So think about that. How could you do that? Well, you could open up our schedule in Chrome. You could just be working in Chrome. And then when you do this link, it'll open the new page in Chrome. And then you'll be just where you want to be. Okay? All right, so that's what we're doing in week 2. Let's look at week 3. In week 3, we're going to cover chapter 3 of the Zell book, Computing with Numbers, and this is going to include the numeric types and how to work with them. And then we have a coding assignment. Okay, not going to go through the details for each of those. In week 4, we're going to skip over Zell chapter 4, which has to do with some things that are not so important to us. And we're going to go over and we're going to cover chapter 5, sequences, which includes strings, lists, and files. And I'm going to warn here, this is a pretty long chapter. Zell has included 3 very important concepts in a single chapter, whereas if you look in the Severance book, these are actually in 3 separate chapters. So, and yet the way that Zell presents these all together really, I think, adds a lot of value. So make sure that you leave time for this. And I put the lecture in 3 parts, so there's a lot of meat here. And then we have the assignment for chapter 5. Okay, and again, the assignments typically come with a tutorial for each of the parts of the assignment. Okay. At this point, I think we probably have 4 exercises, and so I've got 4 tutorials. In the tutorials, I'm not doing the problem that you're going to be doing, but I'm doing one very similar. Okay. Let's see where we're going from here. So that's week 4. In week 5, we're going to go on and cover Zell chapter 6, where we're going to learn about functions. And again, we've got a hand-in assignment for that. In week 6, we're going to go to Zell chapter 7, which is all about decision structures. I do things a little differently in chapter 7. Chapter 7's examples from the book are not as good as I'd like them to be. So what I've done is to create a whole project full of supplemental examples. and I cover them in the lecture, and I give you a copy of that project as well. And then we finish up with the coding assignment for chapter 7. Okay, in week 7, we move on and we cover Zell chapter 8, which is looping and booleans. A very important and fun chapter. Okay, let's see where we go. In week 8, we do Zell chapter 11, in which we cover data collections. And we don't cover the last 3 sections of the chapter, 11.4, 11.5, and 11.6. So you can make sure that, you can read them if you want, but they're not covered in the lectures and they're not covered in the coding assignment. Okay, so that's Zell chapter 11 in week 8. In week 9, this is the first of the weeks in which we cover a chapter from the Severance book. Week 9 is about regular expressions, and they're not really covered to any meaningful extent in the Zell book. So we use the Severance book for that. Okay, and then again, there's a coding assignment at the end. That moves us on to week 10, in which we go back to Zell, and we go back in the chronologies of the chapter, and we cover chapter 9 in Zell, simulation and design. This is a chapter that has a lot to do with program design, with solution design. Okay, and it's a pretty interesting chapter, and it raises some issues that will be important for you as you mature as a programmer. Okay, and then there's a coding assignment from chapter 9. And let's see, week 11, we go back to Severance and we cover chapter 14 from Severance, which is object-oriented programming. And we use a Severance book for that because I think his coverage of object-oriented programming is more appropriate for us and what we're doing than the equivalent chapter in the Zell book. So that's why we're doing that. We have a nice assignment here. Okay. Now, oddly enough, even though it's only week 11, we're at the end of the content for the course. Okay. And what are we going to do now? Well, we are going to start working on the final project. Okay. And so in week 12, we just work on the final project. In week 13, we work on the final project. In week 14, we work on the final project. Okay, and then we hand it in at the very end of the week. Now, I have the instructions here for the final project. It turns out that there are 4 parts to the final project. There's a lot of stuff here, and I'll talk about it. But there are 4 parts to the final project. And if I can find it, we have exercise 1 and exercise 2. Okay, these are programs that you should be able to write a lot earlier than 3 and 4. 3 and 4 have to do with object-oriented Python programming. Well, if we go back, so I'll show you 3 and 4. So here we're going to create an object-oriented Python class, and in 4 we're going to use it. Okay, well, let's just look at the schedule. Okay, when can we start uh, exercises 1 and 2 of the final project? Uh, Pretty early, I think after week 10. Yeah, after week 10, when we do this um, chapter 9 simulation and design, you're ready to go ahead and begin the final project. Okay, you can do the first 2 parts. Okay, and then after week 11, okay, where we cover object-oriented Python programming, you're ready to do the second half of the final project. Okay, so you could start. Okay, you could start on the final project in the beginning of week 11. Okay, so you could have 11, 12, 13, and 14 to do it. That's 4 whole weeks. Okay, worst case, if you get caught up in doing this um, object-oriented programming stuff and don't get to start the final project, well, then you get 3 whole weeks. Okay, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, and you should be able to do it. One thing to remember about the final project is the kind of support that I'm offering to you, primarily through this online lab session, but through the through our request center portal, our kind of help desk, service desk for our course. Um, you you're entitled to as much help on the final project as you are on the coding assignments. Okay, so don't feel that you have to struggle with the mystery of the final project. If you get stuck and you need some help getting unstuck, well, get in touch and we'll give you help. So that's the overall schedule. If you go on to week 15, that's just exam week, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get everything done by week 14. All right, so now having had a chance to play this and the kind of part 1 of the introduction, which I made available last week, you should be pretty well versed in the flow of the course and what we're going to learn, and especially when you could reasonably expect to start work on the final project and all that kind of stuff. So I assume that there might be questions. You could either come to Online Lab on a Sunday morning from 11 to 12, and it'd be a really nice opportunity to answer your question. Or again, you could connect to our service desk, and you could ask a question there, and we'll send an answer back. So that's it for today. I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.